We Are Here, a podcast produced by St. Bonaventure, Franciscan Conventuals, and now to We Are Here. Well, welcome back to the podcast. Here we are. Today we have Brother Danny Thielsen, who works at the soup kitchen downtown in Chicago, and he also works at the gift shop here, and he does tours at Marytown here. And also on the phone with us is Father Bob Cook, the pastor of St. Ida's and St. Thomas of Canterbury in Chicago. Welcome, Father Bob.
Thank you, Father Hans. Thanks for inviting me.
Glad to have you and Brother Donnie here. So if you wouldn't mind, Father Bob, can you kind of give us a little bit of a history on the soup kitchen situation, of how it started, as briefly as you want, and how it's kind of transformed differently now since we're dealing with the coronavirus?
Sure. The soup kitchen is one of the older ones in the area. We're in an area called Uptown, Edgewater, which is the far north side. Soup kitchen goes back to the 1970s and was started by the Catholic Worker House that's in the area. Over time, it became more of a parish function, but it's been continuous since the mid 70s. And at the same time, they started a food pantry to serve, people who are in need of supplementing, where they get their food. The neighborhood has changed over the years, but it still remains a very diverse neighborhood and one that is fairly low income.
Yeah, Father...
I think it has the largest homeless population in the city right now. There are 7 homeless shelters in the immediate vicinity of the parish, which I'm told by our alderman is more than anywhere else in the city.
Wow. I know I was talking with Father Melnick for a little bit, and he was saying that there's a lot of parishioners from St. Ida's whose students have parents that are taxi drivers, and now they're kind of out of work and looking for that supplemented food that's kind of given through the soup kitchen. Is that correct?
Yeah, so our school is almost entirely immigrant and refugee kids. Mostly, the majority are from Eritrea, which is a very small country in Africa. And many of their parents are either Uber drivers or taxi cab drivers, and you see all the taxi cabs line up to pick them up after school. And when the schools were closed because of the virus, one of the parents had to stay home to be with the kids, and so automatically they lost one income, and now so many of them are, Uber drivers or taxi drivers, and there's just not a lot happening. So they're below the poverty line to begin with, and what little money they were making is now not there. So, that's become a real important priority of our food pantry is supplementing the food situation for the parents. But we have a group that we've been serving continuously at the food pantry, and now we've added the school parents. But in light of all the unemployment claims being filed just this week, we anticipate many more people coming to get food just to kind of help them through the week.
Right.
People who come to the soup kitchen are a little bit of a different clientele. They tend to be more homeless, more mental illness. People who are living in either what are called the SROs, which are single room occupancies, or the homeless shelters. And they often don't have the ability to cook something, so they don't come to the food pantry as much. But there is some overlap between the two groups that we serve.
Okay. Brother Danny, now you've been serving at the soup kitchen for I don't know how long, and if you wouldn't mind telling us about that and how it's set up, and at the same time how you've had to change things, especially with the people that are helping you, maybe there, maybe not there, how things have changed since the virus hit.
Well, to start off, I started there almost over 20 years ago when I was a postulant, in fact, working with Jim Eater, who's been there over 40. And I was helping out there, and I'm a professional cook in the restaurant field most of my life before I even entered. So a lot of that was familiar to me. And then just being an hour away here at Marytown, the distance and the availability to come over there as often was more difficult. But now that it's our parish, I find it more accessible to come there regularly twice a week to work there. The setup is pretty much the same. I mean, we have a lot less people because of dynamics of the area, the poor that are available to live nearby or to transport there themselves.
And now what about helpers? Is that changed?
No, that's pretty much the same. Different people, of course. A lot of the same people as well that regularly come and help out. Now they're a bit older, and because of the situation, again, as you speak, they can't come as often, or, because of their health and, vulnerability. We have different people now helping out. Young people, some of the students still come, even though they're off of school. So that's all set up with the other brothers, Brother Ayub and other people who set up the people coming.
Okay. And
I would say, right, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Brother Don, but I would say that with the soup kitchen, Tuesdays and Fridays, we get between 80 and 120 people, depending upon the time of the month, really, as the benefits start to run out.
Correct.
Towards the end of the month, you get more.
Yes.
The volunteer base is, as Brother Don said, some really kind of consistent volunteers since the two parishes merged, St. Ida and St. Thomas Canterbury, when the Friars came and took them. There's been more consistent volunteers from the other parish, St. Ida Parish. And there's been a long history of a tremendous amount of volunteers who are very young people, like college from Loyola University, Loyola Academy, Ignatius Prep, which in light of the virus have dried up, right? Because the schools everyone's sent home, they're deciding they're not coming. So we're really down to right now, I would say, a skeleton crew of volunteers. And then some of our longtime volunteers would be at risk,
Right.
either because they live in a senior complex, or they're over 65, or they have other health reasons. So
Sure.
as much as they would like to come, they're starting to realize that it's probably not in their best interest to come and volunteer. So we're kind of strapped right now, both at the food pantry and soup kitchen, for volunteers. So it's becoming more of a, the consistent group that are not at risk. And the Friars, we have some religious sisters who are on site. And so we're doing the bulk of it, I would say, at this point.
Okay, so then, especially with your parish, St. Ida's, is there definitely, I would say there's probably definitely a dynamic change. You can't have the masses, the confessions, and stuff like that. So the friars that are there that were doing other things, are they more or less kind of filtering in a little more at the soup kitchen in any way by chance, Bob?
Yeah. So our approach to this has been really threefold. The first is to give total attention to keeping the food pantry and the soup kitchen up and running, which is everything from preparing the food or the bags to distributing them either at the soup kitchen or the food pantry, and also to continue that channel of donations, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, a lot of the things that are donated to a food pantry are collected at parish masses. Now that there's no parish masses anymore, we're starting to get concerned that the donations will be hard to come by, just as the numbers are increasing.
Oh, sure.
The second thing that we're doing, we've in the Friars in the House, we've adopted the more traditional conventual monastic horarium, so we're praying more for the parish, which includes also a live cast mass every day over Facebook for our people who couldn't be with us. And then, as you mentioned, the Friars are more on hand. We had been, with all the other things kind of balancing, on hand pretty regularly at all these things, but now it's really become our focal point.
Oh, good. All right. Brother Donnie, now, how's the dynamics changed for you in serving? You're not inviting them in, from my understanding, and so what's taking place at this time?
Yeah, well, right. We prepare all the food, and the donations come in, and we do all that within the establishment there, and then we serve it up at the door. So with less people working there, it still works out. Somehow the logistics change. Maybe we prepare less food, at least quantity or choices that they want to, that they're used to. So if we have enough people, all of a sudden we have enough food, we can give them different things. Like I said, it works out. So we prepare all the food within the place there, we bag it up, and that's a lot of assembly, that's a lot of factory-style work, getting that all done, and then bringing it up the stairs in a box, and then simply handing it out at the doorway.
So it's kind of like as they want it the restaurants to do. You can take it to go.
Right. We give them a bag of cold foods, which entails usually a sandwich, a salad, a fruit, a dessert, the silverware, salt and pepper, creamer, stuff like that, for the coffee if we serve coffee. And then the hot food is 1 or 2 boats of soup, in a quart-sized container. And that also comes with a napkin and a spoon and stuff. And then we give the coffee. But the idea is to give them their food and move them away. Within reason, because they're homeless, they've got to sit somewhere to consume it. You know, if they don't have a place nearby where they're not causing a problem.
So do you try to kind of say, hey, you got to be 3 to 6 feet away from each other?
Right. We try to have somebody that can nicely say that, you know, but within reason, not yelling at them, you know, treating them with respect that we're there to serve them,
right.
All in all.
Right.
And one of the dynamics of it, and this is kind of the difficulty, is that people come to soup kitchens not necessarily because they're hungry. Some are indeed homeless, but they're sheltered, you know, so they have a place to be. Some are unsheltered, right, like living under the viaduct or something like that, or some are in these kind of SROs. And so they come not because they're necessarily, you know, hungry per se, although it's dinner time, and like anyone they would be hungry, but they come for the sense of community. Right? I mean, we have people that
family.
come when we open the door and they stay for an hour and a half and they sit with their friends and they do it every Tuesday and Friday night and they connect with each other, and it's that human interaction,
yes,
which is as important as the food, you know. But right now, that human interaction puts them at risk for the virus.
Right.
True.
You know, and so we're trying to feed them, but to do it in a way that doesn't increase their risk of contracting the virus, and it's hard because they're coming to see each other. You know, and so you don't, in a sense, you know, you don't want to create an environment where, you know, we're putting them at greater risk. But by the same token, you know, they have basic, like all of us, have the needs for community, the needs for human interaction. So how do you do that in this time? And it's, you know, it's a challenge.
Yes.
The very nature of it is ugly in one sense. The fact that they're on the streets and they're living meager. So we're working with something that's not going to be perfect, but yet we do the most we can with the generosity of the people that donate. And by the grace of God, we start with a prayer and we just say, you know, God, it's in your hands. We have a need to serve, you know, to use this food that we have to serve that. And they have a need to eat it or to be social or community. And somehow God sorts it all out.
Okay. All right, I've got a question, one for each of you. And I guess, Father Bob, as the dynamics change, now I just heard on the radio this morning the news that Chicago is really going to be starting enforcing to stay at home more than they had been because it keeps doubling. Does that change your dynamics in how you will be, how you are going to allow people to work at the soup kitchen by chance? Do you have an outlook for that yet?
Well, it is considered, food pantries and soup kitchens are considered essential operations.
Correct, yeah.
So just like a supermarket would be. So we are permitted to do that. I think we have to be just sensitive to the protocols, right? And so if anyone is at an at-risk group, we're asking them to come back to volunteering after, you know, the governor's order has lifted. we have to be more sensitive to work when we're working at a distance from each other, you know.
Right.
And so it's the tendency is to rely more on long-term volunteers who kind of know what they're doing, who can operate quickly, because now time is of the essence. Because the idea, we used to say, okay, we're serving at 5:30, starting around 5 o'clock, you'd have a group of people start to hang out outside, and so that's creating exactly what we don't want, right? A congregation of people.
Right.
So we're working harder to get it done quicker and just start distributing the minute people start showing up at the door, so they'll take it and leave, you know, and to avoid the virus, or at least the risk of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, we're tending more to rely on the Friars. We have a community of religious sisters who live at Thomas Canterbury now, long-term volunteers, but I think we're moving towards fewer volunteers just because sometimes, and Brother Donnie can testify this better than I can, the more volunteers you have, the slower it moves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I've worked there too. Yeah, I understand.
When you get to 20 high school kids who show up, you know, I mean, it's kind of, you spend a lot of time kind of directing them, you know. So if you have people who know what they're doing and don't need a lot of direction, you can get it done faster.
All right, we're going to take a break at this moment, and then we'll be right back to We Are Here. Hello, my name is Father Hans Flandor, the Vocation Director of the Franciscan Conventuals of St. Bonaventure Province. Now, doing these podcasts actually were not on my mind when the first thoughts of streaming our Sunday Masses and the Stations of the Cross from the second floor chapel came to me as intense thoughts when the intensity of the coronavirus increased here in the States. But new thoughts continued to come to me, like capturing our homilies on video and then posting them on the colbyshrine.org website and the franciscancommunity.com website, where we could share them with all of you who could not be here at the Masses. Now, once we were told that we could no longer allow any of the doors into our main chapel, the Colby Shrine Chapel, we moved our Masses back into the main chapel from the second floor chapel where we were at, where everyone could participate through our live streaming on a daily basis. Yet, we were still dealing with the separation from each other. I have to say, the introduction of doing podcasts goes back a few years to my fellow vocation director from another province, Father John Bamman, who kept talking about it. Lately, it kept bubbling up as a constant thought. So I presented this one thought also to Father Benedict. He was all for it, and this is how it all began. Now, a part of this also was our concern for surviving, and part of that is maybe wearing this mask, right? But I don't really need this mask here. We're all safe, we're all healthy, and what was nice is somebody actually donated about 8 of these masks for us. So if we had to go outside to the store, to the post office, we could protect ourselves. Now, since we've had no one here to light candles and attend Masses each day, which our congregation generously would give alms to help support us, this is why we had to add certain, shall I dare say, commercials to these podcasts. We are Franciscans, and a part of our charism is to beg, only if we need to. Our desire and wish is to serve you, not just beg and give nothing in return. Through these podcasts, we hope to feed you spiritually. We are asking you to pray about any donations you feel led to give in support of our province or of Marytown. Now, at the same time, we do not wish to forget those who are even worse off than we are. As you have heard from Father Bob and Brother Donnie about those who are presently living out on the streets because of either mental illness or a loss of jobs or any other number of reasons, we ask your help to keep the soup kitchen supplied the best we can. Father Bob will talk about this in the next section, but I want to give you a chance to write down the information he will be speaking about when we return to the episode. If you can or would like to donate canned goods or money, you first can go to St. Ida's website. Therefore, type in That is saintita.org. And that is saintita.org. If you wish to bring canned goods, you first need to call St. Ida's Parish to make an appointment to drop the canned goods off. Please call 773-561-5343. Again, that is 773-561-5343. Once you have made that appointment, the address is 1220 West Catalpa, and Catalpa is spelled C-A-T-A-L-P-A, and that's Chicago, Illinois 60640. Again, that is 1220 West Catalpa, C-A-T-A-L-P-A, Chicago, Illinois 60640. Even if you can offer just 1% of what you may have, this will be 1% more than what these people have had as they live out on the streets. Pray about what you can offer, and may you who give cheerfully find the reward in giving to Christ, who is hidden behind each face that is out there. Now, bow your heads and let me offer you a blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he let his face shine upon you and show you his mercy. May he turn his countenance toward you and give you his peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Welcome back to We Are Here, and we're with Father Bob Cook and Brother Donnie Thielsen. Now, Donnie, I had a question for you. You go and actually get food from a lot of places. Mm-hmm. Now, is there a lot of quarantines or people turning you away because of that? And does that allow you, or does that not allow you to get as much food as you had been getting?
Yeah, I get it from a couple places, but one of them, of course, is quarantine because they work with the elderly, and so I can't enter that building because of that. The other one, I can still get stuff. There's many places I could still find, for receiving goods and stuff. People are very generous, but it's to make it work out with time and everything, that's a difficult, because I pick it up and I load it up, organize it, and take it over there. And it's about an hour drive for me, as it is, just to drive there. And I can drop off stuff at other pantries, and I can pick up stuff from pantries that they can't move. But it all works out, It just depends on what we need and what's available. And I got some room to work with there.
You see the providence of God working in this all the time?
It's amazing, just when you think you're going to run out of food, there's just that many people to receive it. And they're more than happy to get extra because that'll last them through the week. I don't know how it works out, but it just does. We start with a prayer. We trust in God, and it's all in his hands, and he loves the poor. So God's going to always take care of his poor.
Now, Father Bob, with the food pantry, you also have a clothing pantry there too, I believe still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a clothing room, but we suspended it for the time being because it's in a very constricted area, and there would have been no way to keep the distance 6 feet. And also, there's a question about transferring the virus by touching clothing, for example.
Okay.
So if someone, had the virus and had touched something and then didn't take it with them, it's possible that the virus would have been on that piece of clothing. So it's just for safety reasons we've suspended the clothing room.
Now, if somebody wanted to donate something, even if it was monetary cash for buying food or something like that, how would they go about that? Would they go directly to St. Thomas Canterbury, St. Ida's, or both places? Is there things that you're kind of thinking outside the box, since you said, sometimes you're not getting the food that the canned food like you used to at the parish.
Right. Well, certainly any type of donation of food or money to buy food would be, very welcomed. We have on our parish website, if you go to the St. Ida Parish website, which is spelled St. Ita, I-T-A, right? So it's Saint, SAINTITA.org. There's a way to donate online, and certainly if you wanted to send something to it, the address is 1220 West Catalpa, Catalpa, and the zip is 60640. With regard to the donation of canned goods, you can call the parish to arrange the time of donation, because the food pantry is Tuesdays and every other Friday. The soup kitchen is every Tuesday and Friday. But those aren't the best times to deliver a donation because we're working.
Right.
We'd have to schedule it. But
So
you can call at 773-561-5343, and then we can schedule a time when you can make the donation over to Thomas Canterbury, which is St. Ida. It's a combined parish. The St. Ida Church is, I think, 5 blocks north of the St. Thomas Canterbury Church. So they're in walking distance.
Okay. Since you've both kind of been there in different fashions, working and stuff, there any stories that you have that come to mind that are tellable or maybe really are Jesus-centered in a sense? Wow, if this wouldn't have happened if Christ wasn't here amongst us or something like that. Anything that comes to mind with either one of you?
Yeah, there's some people, it's usually very well run, and they very much appreciate the food and stuff. But if I was living on the streets, I'd be the same way. Some of them are troubled or anxious, or they've been bothered by people or situations, and they come and they bring their stuff there. But lately, with all the troubles and the corona and trying to serve and make the food available, they appreciate it the more, and they're very nice and very kind and very receptive, and a whole change has come upon them. And how people help each other, I think they feel that as well.
Okay, great. How about you, Father Bob? Anything that comes to mind? Any stories, or have you run into any storytellers maybe that are talking to you?
Oh, certainly. There's some of our regular guests are some of the most colorful and entertaining people you could imagine. Yeah, and that's just it. Personally, I enjoy the company of our guests. And some can be difficult. You're dealing with mental illness and addictions, but you got to kind of see past that and see the person there, the person who is made in the image and likeness of God, and. But that's like them on a bad day. But on a good day, they can be incredibly wonderful and just so grateful, and also very faith-filled. I think Brother Donnie would attest to that. Yeah. That the faith of our guests is so strong. If you ask how I'm doing, I'm blessed. You know what I mean? They just really see themselves as loved by God. Many. And I always joke about how you meet someone who is living in a very difficult situation, who's going from meal to meal, and they say they're blessed. And of course, when I wake up in the morning and my coffee isn't hot enough, I'm shaking my fist at God. Well, how could you have done this to me? And it just gives you this sense of perspective, that in a sense, and this is why working with the poor is such an incredible shot in the arm with regard to faith, is that their ability to express gratitude is just so it increases my faith. You know what I mean? Their faith, I kind of feed off of their faith in that way, and it's hard to even kind of put words to it. Just it's like Mother Teresa used to say that when when you're with the poor, you know that you were with Christ.
Right.
And you just feel that. I can't put it into words, but I I come away from the food pantry and soup kitchen as frustrating as it can be, and like I said, sometimes you get people who are, and with good reason. I mean, angry or just having had a bad day or bad week, bad month, bad life. You know what I mean? And they just don't know how to express it. And those can be challenging. But I always leave the service aspect of it in a better state spiritually, and I'm grateful for that.
Great.
We have one guy that comes there. I mean, they come from different walks of life. One guy is a poet, and I just enjoy seeing him. He comes in, kind of scraggly-looking hair, and he carries a broom with himself. And he just walks around with this broom. He just looks like someone out of Charles Dickens. And he recites this incredible poetry that he wrote on by himself on these little chits of paper that he's picked up, and he just scribbles words, and he recites. So he comes beelines to me, and he just starts reciting this poetry. And with the coronavirus, he doesn't have the time to tell me, so he gives me these poetry that he wrote. He says, here, read this. It's really good, and it talks about this or that, the other thing. The people that tell jokes, and call me aside because they heard a new joke. Usually it's stories about politics, and who's running for this or that or the other thing. They're very much politically connected. It's what's going on. And they're just funny. They're interesting. They're unique. And they touch my life as well as I try to help them.
Would you say they're kind of like an extended family in a sense? Your cousins that you go and visit, twice a week?
Yeah, Cousin Bob.
There's another guy I was thinking about. There's a guy who comes pretty regularly. He also comes to Mass on Sundays, too, so I know him in that context. And he's a pretty interesting guy. I mean, and he, like Don said, he doesn't look good. You know what I mean? He's and there's mental illness, and he's just, there's personal hygiene stuff going on, and
a little disheveled, huh?
yeah, you could say. And but I'll never forget. Once I had I think Good Shepherd Sunday, and I had went on this kind of long discourse in the hallway about
no.
Yeah, I know F. Scott Fitzgerald and the Great Gatsby, and how somehow it's connected to the Good Shepherd, right? And the backstory to the Great Gatsby. And so he's waiting for me after Mass, and he said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? I said, yeah, sure. But I think you misinterpreted Fitzgerald on that. What do you mean? He said, no, that's not who Daisy Buchanan was in that story, right? And he went on, I've come to find out he's got a master's degree. Oh.
he upped you one.
He's probably right that I did misinterpret him. But this guy, if you were to see him at the soup kitchen, you kind of avoid him because of all the stuff. And but we just don't know people's background or what brings them to that point. What just how devastating mental illness can be in a person.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're but for the grace of God, go any of us.
Yeah.
Well, any last words, Brother Donnie, before we sign off on this?
Well, I just enjoy doing this kind of work. It's a way of connecting us as St. Francis would work with the poor. And it's something that people who are looking at our order and looking at our life appreciate seeing this work that we do with the poor. Right away they beeline to this and they say, this is what I want, And I hope that it attracts people for our whole life, what it entails. And I hope we're doing what we're called to do.
Okay, thank you. And Father Bob, any last words for you? Or?
Oh, yeah, I would just say that, that in the 25th chapter of St. Matthew, the Lord says that, whatsoever you did to the least of mine, you did to me. And he says that that's one of the criteria by which in the end we'll be judged, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the great insights, I think, of St. Vincent de Paul was that the poor need people who are better off to help them just to get through life. But those who are better off need the poor so that they can get to heaven.
Yeah.
And so there's this. It's part of the economy of salvation, if you will, that the Lord gives us brothers and sisters who are in need, and so as to give us that opportunity to serve them, as our brothers and sisters, right? We're all in the same boat here, and we just have different circumstances.
Well, I want to thank you, Father Bob Cook and Brother Donald Thielsen, for being with us today here at We Are Here. And this is the whole point, to show that the Franciscans, the Conventuals here in the United States are here still for those spiritual needs and any other need that we're able to do despite the situation of this pandemic that is, really scoured the world at this point. So, well, hopefully we'll have each of you on this again, and remember those stories and share them, because the parishioners who aren't in your parishes right now might be looking to these as some edification. So God bless you all, and God bless who all listen or see this podcast, audio or video.
Thank you, Father Hans. Thank you, Bob.
We Are Here is a podcast produced by St. Bonaventure Province of the Franciscan Conventuals of the United States. Our theme song for this podcast is Soulful Bluesy Jam, taken from the royalty-free album Instrumentals for TV Productions, Podcasts, Movies, and Jingles, purchased through Amazon.com. You can find our podcast at FranciscanCommunity.com and ColbyShrine.org. And if you are a practicing Catholic male between the ages of 18 and 40, interested in learning more about our Franciscan conventual life, contact me, Father Hans Flandor, at friarvocations@gmail.com.